For more on the passing of Pravin Gordhan, I'm joined now by Dawie Roodt, the chief economist at the Efficient Group. Thank you so much, Dawie, for joining us. We know Mr. Gordhan held a number of key portfolios as a cabinet minister, one of them being in the finance ministry. Just give us your thoughts about what you thought of his two stints as finance minister.
Maybe I can just say, as an economist, as a young economist, I came across him for the first time, and I've analysed all his budget speeches, I've analysed all his budgets, and I've really commented on that as well. But he was first the minister, of course, he was the commissioner at SARS, and he did an absolutely brilliant job at SARS. And even today, the budgetary process and the budget in South Africa is probably the most transparent in the world. So an excellent job there. When he took over as Minister of Finance, I'm afraid things didn't really go that well. He took over when state debt relative to GDP was around 25% to GDP. And when I left there, the state finances deteriorated or was on the trajectory of deteriorating quite significantly. And there are reasons for that, two specific reasons. One is that Pravin Gordhan gave well above inflation increases to civil servants, and he also kept on bailing out all those state-owned enterprises. The result of that is that state finances deteriorated quite markedly. And even today, we can see that despite all his efforts, the state-owned enterprises are financially and operationally have been run into the ground. And he continued that when he was the Minister of State-owned Enterprises, where we tried to micromanage many of these state-owned enterprises and the like. But during his time as the Minister of Finance, of course, he's a real ideologue. He's somebody that believes in state intervention. And that's an ideology that simply did not fit in with a modern economy. And as the Minister of Finance, he set in motion a lot of forces that we are still battling with today.
Based on what you say, do you feel that he was sort of then a man of contradiction, that he did so well at SARS on the one hand, and maybe not so much as finance ministry, but of course that will have been informed, like you say, by the policy imperatives of the government of the day?
Yes, I would say so. I think he was a brilliant administrator. I don't think he was such a good policy setter because his policies were based on an ideology that's simply out of touch with the reality of a modern economy. He was also fiercely loyal to the ANC. And I can remember a time when the financial market, during the time of state capture, when economists spoke to one another, and I spoke to financial market participants, and we all said the same thing. As long as Pravin Gordhan remains, we still have hope. During that time when Zuma and was basically, but during the state capture years, everybody was looking up to Pravin Gordhan. He was a brilliant, he was fiercely loyal to the ANC, and that is a contradiction to me as well. How could somebody that clearly had his fingers, he did not have his fingers in a cookie jar, but how could he remain so fiercely loyal to an organization that was clearly destroying the South African economy of state capture and the like? So I think he was a brilliant administrator, but in terms of his policies, those were influenced by his ideology, and he was also a communist as well, something that simply doesn't fit in with the modern economy.
Yeah. So then, in closing then, what would you say his legacy was?
Well, I was thinking about this, and I think if you will try to find a monument for Pravin Gordhan, I think South African Airways, that is his monument. We had 10 turnaround plans, mostly under his leadership, and they all failed. And every time he tried the same thing, and they all failed. And I'm afraid to say that in the end is going to be Pravin Gordhan's legacy. And I'm speaking as an economist.
Yeah. Very sad indeed. Thank you so much, Dawie, for your comments there on Pravin Gordhan.